you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I would like to be. I could fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings.
Yo, what's up?
Hey, you know what day it is today, man?
What day is it today? I don't know. What is it? Is it one of the dark days or something? Is it Father's Day? Is it what day is it?
No,
today?
it is a dark day. On this day in 1973, Salvador Allende, the progressively democratically elected leader of Chile, was deposed and killed in a U.S.-backed coup, and that installed the right-wing dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet. The original 9/11.
Boring. You know, I was hoping you would say something real, like it's the 6th of January or something like that.
Well, that's going to be the once this. This was the original 9/11. Then we had the actual 9/11, which was the first time most Americans felt the repercussions of our foreign policy blowback right down our throats. And the next 9/11 they're trying to prop this 1/6 like it's the next 9/11. It's a joke. I mean, like literally, like, you know, they've run out of terrorists around the world, so they are now looking inwards, which is really a real logical extension of the national security state that's been going on for so many years. So I'm not really surprised about that. It's just that people didn't know anything about what was happening. I remember in 2004 or 5, I don't know if you remember this, but there was an AT&T employee who came forward and said that these guys are freaking spying on your ass, right? This was like the first real, and there was all the shock. Oh my, Nancy Pelosi, oh my God, Americans cannot, this fucking psycho knew all about torture, black site, CIA, everything, right? This psycho needs to be at The Hague, although we have the Hague Invasion Act, so I don't know how that'll work.
Yeah, that will work, yes, that's right. Yeah.
But
let's for all the idiots who needs a bit of a refreshment on Hague Invasion Act, which political party was the majority in voting for Hague Invasion Act, by the way?
The Democrats/Republicans and the Republicans.
But the Democrats were the overwhelming majority that voted to invade Hague in the possibility of invade another country, in the possibility that they would expose the whole military-industrial complex. So yeah, I mean, so 9/11 was okay by no means. I mean, I'll tell you right now, it's just a horrible day, and my heart's bleed out for the people who lost, and also people who lost from the subsequent wars that 9/11 was used as justification. And everything else that has happened. So, it's had a ripple effect in violating human rights all around, and not just of what happened on that day. Of course, thanks to Jon Stewart, we also now know that about 50,000 people have suffered, grave illnesses, if not terminal, because of the aftermath of 9/11 due to asbestosis and all the other toxins that I'm sure people like Rudy Giuliani assured that it is safe to breathe, just so they can get that, the Wall Street machine ticking within a very short period of time after a massive crisis like this happened. So, yeah, so a lot of people have suffered, and it's a terrible event. But I think it's also a great time for us to reflect on some of the, in how, when you see on Facebook some type of a very what's the word I was looking for, very callous or a very insensitive sort of a 911 related joke. They will put like a meme of the towers blowing up, and okay, so if you lost someone on that day, it could have been your mother, your daughter, whatever out there, you lost someone there, you can see when you see that shit on Facebook how much it hurt. Now think about how many of that shit actually, there are millions of people around the world who have lost a loved one for on an event that we do not commemorate, like the 9/11. It could be some attack that happened in Yemen. It could be some attack that happened in Vietnam. It could be an attack that happened in some countries, some foreign policy event that's not even significant or newsworthy enough for you to even know about, but it means the whole world to somebody else, some child out there, a person out there who lost someone who's very close to you. So it's a time to reflect on how you actually, like how these type of things affect everyone. And it may be a joke or a meme to you, but it means the world to somebody else. So it's time to recalibrate your empathy meter a little when you think about this type of things. With 9/11, so let's talk about 9/11 a bit now. Where were you on September 11, 2001?
So on September 11, 2001, I was living in Jersey City. I was right across the river, and I had an Ericsson R520M. Anybody who knows about cell phones will not know about this phone. This is before smartphones, dumb phone. I mean, this is before, I think, 6 months to a year before Ericsson merged with Sony to form Sony Ericsson, right? So I had this really cool, it was a freaking awesome for its time. Nobody had it because it was like an import, but I loved it. But guess what? I had just gotten up, it was around 8, it was like 8:45, 8:50, literally that time. I remember the time too. And, you had those green displays on the screens. You had just those, dot matrix kind of, black text on green background screens back then. And it said no service. And I was like, I paid the bill, man. I was like worried I didn't pay the bill and they cut me off or whatever. And then I had the cable guy come to my house. He was installing cable that day. So he came in right around that time and he said, let me look at your TV. I'll plug in the thing. And, when you don't have cable, you'll literally get like just basic channels like the networks maybe, or like PBS or some kind of public access. You won't get any cable, like real cable, like, Disney or anything like that. So, and the first picture that comes up on this goddamn TV is the freaking tower on fire. And this dude immediately drops everything. He goes, my brother's in the building. And before I could blink, he was gone. Right?
Oh.
So I said, and I was living on like a second floor apartment. So my aunt lived across the street. I went running like a 100-meter dash to her house. Now she lived on the 23rd floor of a high building. And she had a direct view of downtown Manhattan. And I come to her house and she opened the door and I was like, do you know what the hell's going on? And she goes, she had the windows closed. She didn't know what was going outside her own window. I was like, yo, opened it. By that time, the second plane had hit. So when I got to her place, there were 2 towers on fire. And it was surreal just seeing that happen, because I remember seeing downtown, the whole, thing about her apartment was she had a great view. So if you want to go see Lower Manhattan at night or during the day or whatever, it'd be great to see it from her place. And oh my God, they were like shrieking. And when the building fell, it actually and my brother was in the building that day, so I was like trying to get a hold of him. I didn't know where he was. But when the building fell, it looked like someone was erasing it with an eraser. It wasn't like the way you see it on TV, like, falling apart in like a outward plume. It wasn't like that. It just looked like something out of Man of Steel, man. They had the special effects done right there. But that was it. I didn't wait around I knew once I saw the first one fall, I knew the second one was going to fall. I don't know what made me think that, and I didn't want to see it. So I went down towards the train station to see if my brother had still stayed on the Jersey side of things. Turns out he was there. Turns out he was the last train into World Trade Center, the last subway train, right? He said he got off the train and he saw the next train come. There's like a loop that comes in from Jersey and goes back out. He's saying, I see this train come in and it just doesn't stop. It goes back out again. He was like, what the hell's going on? And he was wearing headphones with music on loud. And he thought that people were running fast because they were late for work. And the moment he got out of the building is when he saw dead bodies hitting the floor like watermelons. And then he had to run for his life because the plane hit right then, the second plane. And he never talks about it much. So, he actually never talked about it. I mean, he just told me on the day what happened, and that was it. And I could see that over time it affected him. So he probably had about 50, 60,000 people with all kinds of PTSD and mental issues, because that's not a day anybody wants to go through. So, yeah, that was a day. And, compared to that day, the next year and a half to 2-3 years of jingoism, nutty fucking military-industrial complex, man, they were like jizzing for war. There was so many... people seem to... I don't know, did you ever hear about this? Right after 9/11, 28 Muslim countries, citizens in this country who were not either permanent residents or U.S. citizens were asked to specially register with the immigration service because, you know, you're a Mazi now, you're on the fucking list. And they did this shit brazenly. Civil rights, fuck you. I knew a guy who worked in the next office next to me, and he was like a student, working on the table, and he was just like paying his bills while trying to attend college. He was from Pakistan. He ran away to Canada for asylum because he said, if these guys find out I'm earning money here, they're going to do whatever they can to get rid of me. So this was a climate of absolute fear and terror for like anyone, like that Family Guy cartoon where you have the fading shade of pink to black, and the darker you are, the more terrorist you are. So that's what I think, like, it was like we could have gone one way and we went totally the other way. I mean, come on, we couldn't have gone the other way. We would have always gone this way. This is what this country's about. But yeah, that's my 9/11 experience. And the next day, when I got back into the city, whole place was smelling of asbestos. There were like car bomb alerts. Everyone was running out of buildings because there were these. And let's not forget the fucking anthrax attacks, man. That fucking psyop.
Yeah, I remember that shit. Yeah,
yeah, that just conveniently happened, right? It was literally of like a fucking grade that comes out from U.S. bioweapons fucking labs. But hey, you know what? It was sent to a U.S. Senator, Pat Leahy, right? So it must be like, bad people.
I find the whole, this whole, animosity between the right wingers and the Muslims to be so fucking stupid. You had the greatest ally in Muslims, because I don't know if you read the Quran. I have actually. It's literally impossible for a Muslim to be anything but a like a bona fide capitalist. It's literally in their scripture. And, you can have the greatest ally. Because I know Muslims, I talk to Muslims in America, and these are like they're like literally the gun-loving sort of Texan type Muslims, and you're pushing these people away because and you're doing it because you're so short-sighted with your xenophobia. It's just frustrating sometimes to see that how you're missing out on all these opportunities.
Yeah, they went the other way. They went totally the other way. They made them their sworn enemy, and it was just like nuts. It was literally like Osama could not have asked for a better reaction. We literally started eating our own tail that day.
This asbestos thing. So I've noticed that, especially with the 911 fund, the health, whatever the fund, there are like 50,000 people or something close to, like term with suffering from some sort of very serious illness. And a lot of this has to do with asbestos and a lot of the other toxins that, do you find it particularly strange that there are people who are suffering from lifetime illnesses from breathing? Because asbestosis, I've heard of asbestosis as a child, as a kid, where in high school we've studied it. So you people in mines, they get certain types of diseases from breathing toxins, and people who work with asbestos get asbestosis. But these are very long-term illnesses that can go for like you could be working in this industry for 10-20 years before you get something like asbestos. I don't know. I mean, that's just the impression I got. Don't you think that you see these school kids who had to go back to school, and today now they're dying from all these cancers and stuff? Is there something we are missing out here? Is this just asbestos that's causing these people to die, or is there some?
I think it's more stuff. I don't think it's asbestos. I think it's a like we'd say a noxious mixture of all kinds of contaminants, and also a lot of them lived in the area, not just the first responders. Like I was telling you about Donna Summer, and things like that. And just an off note, like a half sister I had once also was a first responder, and she apparently passed from cancer for 4 years later, and she went cycling down to the pile right after it happened. So I mean, it
And
also depends.
that's why do you think that's the reason that killed her, or there are other
I mean,
complicated
she had
reasons?
lung cancer, so I mean, people tend to sort of like it's like the other person I told you about who had a relapse of cancer after taking the vaccine, and I told you her family members think that she may have. This could be a vaccine. We don't know. Like there's no link, there's no medical thing, but it's just a feeling or whatever. So it's a matter of like timing. It's also a matter of like how the people would be like sort of reacting to these. Everyone reacts differently, so based on like how it is, but yeah, I just it took what, I think 20 years for them to pay out. I mean, that's the worst part. They were like, it took like people like Jon Stewart to like freaking go ahead and like make a big fuss. I'm surprised he was allowed to do that, considering he's part of the nexus of CIA or whatever. So
Bro, they're not even looking after the soldiers that went there to fight. What makes you think they're going to look after people who are dying from these toxins? That it's but okay. So the $1 million question right now is: do you think they breathed in some sort of a special chemical that could have caused 110 stories to be brought down within 8 seconds?
Well, yeah, that thing has been going on for so long. The thing is, like, it's not about like most people are just swallowing what this government says, right? That in itself is BS. They're known fucking liars, all right? But on the other hand, like, yeah, like if you talk about, okay, it was an inside job, right? Who's gonna fucking rig like a whole building times two? I mean, there's been these conversations about people would have seen like anyone in the building trying to rig it with explosives and stuff like that. On the other hand, like they go like no building was ever left on fire for so long with jet fuel in it, right? But on the other hand, like no steel has never fucking succumbed like this to a fire, and no building has ever fallen in on itself. But we've never created conditions where a building was allowed to burn. But then this building only burned for like fucking 1 hour. It wasn't even like a day or anything like that, So the thing is like, yeah, it's there's this group on YouTube called 9/11 Engineers for Truth or something like that, and it's like 3,000 architects and engineers who literally did like.
But 3,000 sounds like a very big number, and I agree with you. But you got to understand, though, that those type of stories only focus on the 3,000 that agreed with this theory. But, what they don't do is look at the, I don't know, 300,000 that is of the engineers that probably disagreed with it. That aspect.
Well, we don't know if there are 300,000.
Yeah.
We just know there's a government saying it is. You have this fucking NIST, who's this National Institute for Standards and Technology or whatever. They're the ones who did the investigation. Go to YouTube, right? Every 9/11 video, literally now, I'm actually glad that, people have finally, let me put it this way, man. During 9/11, it was like if the government spoke, it was like fucking Moses was speaking. These guys would be like, man, you think COVID bootlicking is bad? You should see 9/11 bootlicking, all right? That was like on another level.
Here's what fucks with me, right? Okay, so you did already bring this up, but I want to bring it out. So I have seen several videos of controlled demolitions of buildings, and it's not it's so considering what a big and a very active building the World Trade Center was. I mean, World Trade Center wasn't just a building; it was also a very kind of a shit-lived lifestyle building. So it's literally 95% air. You know what I mean? 95% air. So a building like that, in order for you to have controlled demolition, controlled demolition, I know from outside it just looks like a building falling. But if you actually look at inside, they have to knock out a lot of the pillars and the wires and the walls and stuff like that actually holds a building, like it gives a high structure. And the whole inside of a controlled demolition, like if you look at it, it's full of wires and fucking explosives and batteries and whatnot. You know what I mean? It's the whole thing is a shit show. On 9/11, we know that thousands of people who went to work, they no one suspected that they were going to drop into a rubble and melt and die and in this horrible painful way. So of course, if they did a controlled demolition on that building, it had to be done in a sort of a very super covert type of way, or they were not using the same technology. They were using some type of a very, very, very special technology. That's very cutting edge technology that's not out there. Like, that's why I said that were they breathing in a chemical that we don't even know whether it even exists. Like whether it is a part of our every daily application. That's why I was asking that question, because there is a lot of cases. So I've looked into the whole the I think one of the common terms they use is pancaking, right? So I've looked into some of the various theories, and what these people are saying is the official narrative that I was reading a narrative that's from around 2001 2002, right after that happened, and it wasn't so much the jet fuel that melted the steel beams. I think that what I think they were getting a bit more technical. They're saying it was the subsequent fires resulting from the building. So all that heat on top eventually compromises structural integrity, and we are talking about millions, like thousands of tons of steel, or like wherever the plane hit, right on top. And what's above that, it's actually fucking heavy, really heavy, you know what I mean, like unbelievably heavy. And when the overall structural integrity of the building is compromised, there is only one way that it can hold that weight, and that is down. So what people ask, why didn't the building flip and fall into other buildings and stuff like that? And I believe that there was absolutely no, if you look at the science of it, there's not enough time to get that type of a trajectory happening when something that heavy falls. When something that heavy falls, the gravity will dictate that the best way to the only way to fall is straight down. And the building, which is 95% air and everything else is steel, because it was like a steel structure. The building was designed to withstand a lot of wind and shit like that, right? Because of that, I mean, they give a very somewhat convincing of a scientific sort of
what they're saying is they're saying that
Yeah.
steel loses 50% of its strength at 1200 degrees Fahrenheit, right? 90,000 liters of jet fuel ignited other combustible materials, such as all the stuff that was in the building, and it continued burning in above 1400 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, steel actually melts at 2700 degrees Fahrenheit, right? And they're basically saying that this...
But it loses the structural integrity at about 650 degrees centigrade. We're talking to...
around in terms of same thing. And they're saying that these metal trusses, right, they started to sag, right? And broke the angle clips that held the beams to the vertical columns, right?
Yeah.
They're saying that basically the pancaking, where each 500,000 ton structure, that's each floor was 500,000 tons. That sounds kind of weird. That's not right. 500,000 tons is way too much. I think they mean 500,000 pounds. All right. Conspiracists argue that the building should have fallen over on their sides, but with 95% of each building consisting of air, they could have only collapsed straight down. That's what the thing is.
Okay. Yeah. That's because there was one guy that came on the Neil deGrasse Tyson's podcast. What is it? The StarTalk Radio, whatever. He was a firefighter that actually was at 9/11, and he was one of those that was trapped down when the building collapsed and survived.
Okay.
He
Only 20
said
people
that
survived. Yeah.
Yeah. And this was an absolute, like, I mean, I find it really hard to even believe his story, because the way he mentioned is that the whole building collapsed on him, and he walked out without a scratch after the building collapsed because of the way it collapsed, because it
must have been caught in an air pocket or something.
Yeah, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was caught in an air pocket, that kind of thing. So that's why. I mean, I've seen the videos, and when I see the way
they made a movie about it,
collapses,
right? World Trade Center.
Yeah, they did actually. I've seen that. I went to the cinema to see that. In fact. So, but when I saw that way that building collapsed without, I mean, I know it did significant damages to the buildings around, including the, Empire State Building and everything else. But
no, you mean World Trade Center?
We know that it. I know you're gonna get that. We will get to the World Trade 7. But by and large, it caused minimal damage to buildings around. It conveniently collapsed
Well, it
on
it
top.
broke the whole complex. It fell on, like right
Yeah.
next to it was a hotel, right? That hotel got
Yeah.
wasted. Then there were these other customs houses and World Trade Center 5, 6, and all this other shit. World Trade 7 was debris fell on top of it, and there were fires burning in it, right? And from what I gathered, the fire department was the one in contact with Silverstein, telling them what the hell is going on. And they when they said pull it, people think they meant pull it by pull the building. Now, of course, I don't trust Silverstein or any of these fucking capitalists. But when the fire department said pull it, they meant to say pull all the people out of the building. This thing's gonna fall.
Yeah, well, World Trade Center of 7, of course, you hear a lot of narratives saying that it just conveniently collapsed on
Building
its own.
7.
But that's the building 7. But we do know that a giant boulder from the actual World Trade Center did strike
fell on
that
the
building, and it
roof, I think.
Yeah, it was on fire for a long time, and the videos we see don't do really justice to. I mean, it was on fire for a very long time,
Yeah.
and there are videos that show the progressive collapse of that building rather than just a conveniently collapsing on a pile of rubble. So, but World Trade Center 7, I think 7 building is a huge mystery that I also wonder how the hell did this building collapse when it doesn't have the same structure that the World Trade Center does. It's just a concrete fucking building, you know what I
Well,
mean?
what about the fact that there were all these CIA offices and fucking gold and all kinds of fucking documents that were buried and, all in World Trade Center Building 7?
Yeah, and you know what fucks with me? Like when I watched the bird's eye view of World Trade Center after it collapsed and everything got cleared, you'd see these 2 massive squares on that block of land. It's like you see a Lego sort of a structure being collapsed down, and all now you see is like it just looks so damn organized and perfect in every way.
Well, it was like an acre in size, each of them.
And they were very quick to clean up all that rubble. Everything.
Well, not really. It took a long time, actually. First of all, it took maybe 4 to 5. You know what they were quick to do, though? They were quick to fucking sell that steel to fucking China, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. They were very quick to sell that steel to China. Yeah. I can never get over that bit. Like all the people trapped.
Well,
like
Giuliani was a good little empire boy at that point. He wasn't considered the enemy, right? He was like the America's mayor. He and that fucking Bernard Carrick. Remember that police chief of his? That guy went to jail. He wanted to be president in 2008. Anyway, he's on fucking Twitter today crying about Biden coming and doing shit. Yeah, these fucking politicians, man. They need to be kept away from all these ceremonies.
Yeah, so we were watching today's ceremony for a little while. It was kind of, the thing with World Trade Center is, like I said, it's a real tragedy for everything that's happened. So I can sort of, I like watching stuff like that only because it helps me also sort of get in touch with my emotional side and all that stuff, watching, these people, in so much pain and all. But
the CIA thanks you for your service.
Oh, fuck off. Yeah, but what I'm not looking forward to is the 6th of January.
Oh, that's going to happen. That's like the in domestic 9/11, right?
Yeah, so that to me is going to be completely cringe, because at least with World Trade Center, it meant something to you. You know what I mean? You watched it, you were shocked and everything. We all remember what happened. But January 6th is going to be like another Guy Fawkes Day type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, how you heard of Guy Fawkes Day, right?
Yep.
I'm sure some, I think if
I am
some
part
people
Scottish. Don't
understand it, I think about what's that movie, V for Vendetta. That mask was actually taken from Guy Fawkes.
Yep.
So it was like this guy who tried to blow up the British Parliament or some shit like that with gunpowder. And now every year they build an effigy of him, and they celebrate it in a grand scale in New Zealand and United Kingdom. So in United Kingdom, I think New Zealand it's still a public holiday. So I mean, this is what January 6th. I mean, don't tell me I didn't warn you. Every fucking year they are going to. They're going to not only they're going to make like some bitch came on Oscars or Golden Globes and cried about it. They're going to make a thing out of this.
I don't think it'll be as much of a fill up the air in the room as 9/11 did. So now we're doing building 7. Building 7, we don't know. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
It's the official narrative is it came down on itself because it was burning. All we know is oligarchs got richer, and people
and our rights got slimmer.
So I mean, I look at it this way, right? So Osama bin Laden, when he declared jihad on America, he actually said after 9/11, I want this empire to eat itself. And guess what we pretended to do? We started to do? Eat our fucking tails, right? Just spy on each other, fucking, complete security state. We got a nice black guy to do it too, so everyone could, take that little security CIA dick up their asses a little easier. And, then, of course, they had to, create domestic terrorism, so best thing is to get Trump in, because then you can really polarize the country. And, of course, don't forget the 2 wars. Million people killed, plus at least maybe 10 to 15,000 Americans, including contractors, U.S. quote-unquote service members, all the poor sods who had to fucking sign up for the military, like my friend who fucking had to be a naval officer for 8 years before he could go to college. So that's how they get you now. No draft needed. Just make them poor. And then...
folks remember, that's right. Remember that all these people who are in the Arlington Cemetery who have died, next time that if there's a real genuine terror threat that happens the next time in a city like New York, just don't expect people from Arlington to be fighting for you, because you can't have really divided the country.
Arlington might fight. They're from Northern Virginia, maybe not from Southern Virginia. Northern Virginia is a little corporate now, so.
Yeah, but remember, most people are not going to stick their neck up for you anyway, because you've broken that social fabric by calling them, domestic terrorists. Why would they be going to fight for you anymore? Even for a lie, they're not going to do that anymore. But so what I was going to get back at was just this. Sorry. What I was going to get back was at this was just how fake this whole thing was. Just when you look at. You saw the whole ceremony, right? Just the Biden standing there, and
you had Biden, Kamala, Biden's wife, your favorite friend, Obama's wife, Obama himself, and the fucking pedo and shitlery. All it was, and then of course Pelosi and Schumer were there as well. So it was literally a cocktail of extraordinary proportions with these criminals. Just don't forget, people don't realize this, right? But Bill Clinton was the one who allowed the Taliban to hang around. He was like, we can really work with them. We're at peace with them, which is actually in the long scheme, in the grand scheme, probably the better take. But I'm just saying that I'm applying their own standards now to themselves, where they keep crying about how bad the Taliban are. Well, why the fuck did you like the Taliban then if you think they're so bad? So it's all bullshit. And I don't know, people talk about 9/11 a lot. Nobody remembers what happened on 9/12. Do you remember what happened on 9/12?
Oh, aside from anthrax.
Well, that happened maybe 3 weeks later. But on 9/12, even though U.S. airspace was completely closed, they had a bunch of fucking private jets ferry out all the Saudis, man. Here you go.
The Bin Ladens, right?
Yeah,
the Bin
Ladens and all the other Ladens and anyone else involved in all the funding of this shit. You can leave immediately. Here you go. I mean, I don't understand. They don't even treat citizens this way as they do at the... these Saudis have him by the balls, man. You know what, FDR, that was his biggest fucking problem, making that deal with them about the gold standard and fuck petrodollar and all this shit.
Yeah, do you think, though, with Bin Laden, do you think he got... you just mentioned how, if Bin Laden wanted to see this country eat inside out. So obviously he whatever he did, the return on investment was far greater than whatever he was ever hoping for. I don't even know if he was even behind this, because every official statement that Bin Laden ever released states that he rejected the taking responsibility for 9/11, right? You would think when you look at idiots like ISIS, they fucking take responsibility for anything. They'll take responsibility for Liverpool losing a football match.
I think they found some video of him 3 months later where he claims, it's my memory's foggy, it's only 20 years, right? But he claims that even he didn't think the plan would go off so well. and that's what they
Yeah,
attribute
yeah,
it to.
but I think the Loose Change had that video in case you I don't know if you remember,
Yeah.
where he said it, but they complete. But if you look at the quality of the video, it's so blurred, and you know like
Well, Apple hadn't
they
released the
say,
iPhone yet. That's why.
yeah, I mean it's so blurred. Not only that, I mean there were so many other discrepancies that's inconsistent with the fundamentalist Islam sort of beliefs, like the finger he was wearing, his ring, and all that stuff. So. So they can't even prove that it was Bin Laden, to be
Well, they need
honest, you know?
someone, right? Well, it didn't even matter if it was him because they went and killed like a bunch of other people.
Yeah, so is it the Bin Laden got more than what he was ever hoping for, if that was his plan.
His other
to
plan was
begin.
he got a bunch of other. We created like 1 million terrorists by default just with all the bullshit we did.
Maybe I'm just naive because I've seen Osama bin Laden's niece or someone. I've seen some of the videos of bin Laden's family on interviews and all. It just doesn't look like they were they are the type of fundamentalists that you want to believe they were. In fact, they look they seem a lot more cosmopolitan. Like like I saw that guy Valley Tame and Patrick Bet Davids to speak into bin Laden's niece or someone like that. And they just look like a different breed of people. So I mean,
Have you seen Bin Laden in the 70s? Have you seen him?
Yeah, I know.
He was wearing fucking jacket and looking like shopping in Harrods, man. Fuck. How does a guy go from that to like mountaining fucking goats and like just fucking hanging out with the boys in the cave?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And also, it does make you wonder. We were talking about the World Trade Center collapse. Let's just take, for example, let's just take for granted, let's say Bin Laden was behind it. He did the whole thing and everything. Do you think that he was expecting the buildings to collapse the way it did? Do you think
that video says that he did not? That's the best part.
Yeah,
he's saying it was beyond my wildest dreams that shit could happen. But
yeah, so
I mean, if you think about it, like, it's the psyop was so great that even the perpetrator didn't think that this could happen.
Yeah. Imagine that, right? That like when they say that when they went to kill him, right? They found a copy of the video, loose change 911. It is scary. So maybe he was like, like he was watching the video and thinking, holy shit, you know what I mean? This is bigger than me. I mean, if the steel beams actually were melting all this shit, maybe maybe I was the puppet. You know what I mean? They set me up to go and blow the planes. But what I didn't know was that there were explosives in this building that was there. So, like I was just a cog in the wheel. I didn't even know that this whole thing is bigger than me.
He's like another useful idiot like Trump.
Yeah, you used me. You know what I mean? All I ever wanted to do was crash planes. All I ever wanted to do was crash planes into a building, and you guys took this to a whole new.
Yeah, and the worst part about this whole thing is like this is where you get to see that everyone's a hypocrite all around, including the security state, these fucking criminal politicians, they're fucking oligarch owners, along with this fucking guy. Right now, he is pretending to be this fucking jihadist who's like fucking hardcore Sharia law, whatever the fuck, right? But his fucking coterie of fucking 19 hijackers that were here, right? You know what they were doing the day before the hijacking, right? They were at fucking strip clubs and banging hookers, man, all right? So much for their fucking, I'm going to be now taking this plane and flying to fucking heaven. Such bullshit, man.
Never made any sense to me. I mean, if you're going to get 72 virgins, like within 48 hours, why the fuck are you at the strip clubs? I mean, it just makes no sense. I mean, guys, come on, think about this stuff. Think ahead, think about the long term. If you're going to be doing this shit, at least think about the 72 virgins. Don't think about the strippers. Like
dude,
today,
brainwash like all the brainwashing that happens here. They had their own brainwashing, and the best part is like, so they used, as you know, back then the whole thing was, they went like. They immediately spun this narrative that the CIA and the FBI were fighting and not sharing information. So now we need to build this global security state behemoth that's going to spy on the whole fucking world and fucking take away your rights. That was literally, and everyone was like, sign me up for the chains, man. Come on, please enslave us. We're looking, we fuck a 9/11. For 9/11, we'll do anything, including give up all our rights.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it is... Yeah, we can go on about 9/11 forever. Like I remember.
Well, it is the anniversary, so that's why we're doing it, right?
It's 20 fucking years. Imagine that, man. I remember when 9/11 happened. So I was that time I was going through a YouTube. So I was in Australia, where I am in Melbourne,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah,
got
there was
into
no
this whole.
YouTube then.
Yeah, so, no, actually, yeah, YouTube, but I was on Yahoo Chat.
Right.
Yahoo Chat was pretty advanced for that time. It had this massive chat rooms. There was one chat room just for Sri Lanka, and a lot of
Okay.
Sri Lankans there, and they had a pretty good duplex voice chat system, and we would, if
Was
you
it
had
full
a web chat,
duplex?
show it off. And once in a while, if you're like a hot Sri Lankan chick, you
Right.
come and yeah, you show your face and all to validate yourself. But yeah, and everybody else would sing Sri Lankan songs, and we were there. And suddenly, when this happened, I used to be close friends with one Sri Lankan guy who used to come there all the time. It's like, fuck, turn on the news, America's under attack. So I turned on CNN.com, which is like the news channel I had. And so I had like fucking what is it? I had dial up at that time. I had dial up at that time. Um, so I was watching it all night. You know what I mean? I was watching it all night, and I
You're
was
watching
like,
3
holy
frames
shit.
per second, planes flying.
Yeah, I
through the
know,
air.
and of course I was eating into the propaganda. I waited
yeah,
all
man.
like I was waited all night to see George W. Bush come out and speak. You know
I
what
didn't
I
wait for
mean?
him.
Like
Fuck that guy.
I wanted to get all pumped up about all the platitudes he was pumping about. How they're gonna hunt them down in the caves and the God bless America and all that shit.
Oh
So
my god.
yeah,
I'm surprised you
so
didn't like come to America and sign up to fucking fight in the army.
I remember on that, like 2 days later, there was a guy from Afghanistan who had a sort of a Muslim accent and shit like that. He was saying, he was actually on the side of America. He was imploring America not to come and humiliate yourself the same way the Soviets did. Like
Well, that happened.
on this
Yeah.
land. And when America actually invaded Afghanistan rather effortlessly, let's just say, it happened very quickly. I was like, okay, so that's all bullshit. But I never thought about the long term game of what he was trying to tell you. He was saying, yeah, invading this country is nothing, but
Come in.
staying in
Yeah.
this country, yeah, like sustainability, that's a whole different game. That so that those his words resonate to me. Like even today I hear his accent, I hear what he was telling. Like this man actually was giving America an advice from a place of love. He was saying, don't fucking do this. This is fucking stupid, don't do it. And yeah, so it's unbelievable. So yeah, I mean, I do remember the 911 so well. I mean, only because I was lucky. I mean, there were so many people who just probably slept through it and did missed it and all that, but I was sort of up all night. I followed the whole thing, and I'm glad I did. You know what I mean? It's because it's a story to tell that I would remember forever. So
Do you remember what happened on 9/10?
9/11, 9/10.
Yeah, so
What happened
9/10 and
9/10?
9/12 are very critical to 9/11 because 9/10, Osama knew that when he attacks this place, they're going to come and do exactly what they did because this fucking place is so predictable, right? He made sure to get rid of Ahmed Shah Massoud in the Northern Alliance with 2 Al-Qaeda members disguised as press people decided to go interview him, and they had a bomb in their video camera, and they got rid of this guy because what he knew what was going to happen is that if America attacks Afghanistan, the Northern Alliance is really strong with this guy. So let's get rid of him today, and then tomorrow we'll fucking attack America, and we'll have the Taliban will still not be, of course they fell anyway, but that was his thing. And of course, don't forget, he was hiding on fucking Tora Bora. These motherfuckers, instead of going after him, sent Afghan forces. You know how great these Afghan forces are. They must have been fucking, playing with Bin Laden in the fucking caves before he ran away. So it was just it's like Biden now leaving Afghanistan. Have you noticed the similarity? Biden leaving Afghanistan and Obama getting Osama, right? You see this, you see the way it perpetuates. These people do it after 10 years at a time because even they know that the charade is now like getting really stale and no one's falling for this shit anymore. And of course, don't forget Obama, 9/11. In 2011, he gets rid of, supposedly, they got this guy, and immediately before they fucking could do anything, they threw him in the fucking ocean, right? No photos, no nothing. Nobody even knows if they got the right guy. And then 2021, he gets out of Afghanistan, At the same time, Obama went right into Libya right after that, right? And this guy is still in Syria. So these guys aren't going to stop in their bullshit. This is just because they gauge, okay, the public is really fucking tired of this. We need a new fucking con. That's why it happens.
See, Osama was, I don't know if you remember, he was already a sort of a well sought after figure by the time 2001 happened. In fact, so I
top 10 FBI wanted.
Well, he was also a very well feared figure because, I mean, we know that Clinton, you remember how Clinton...
He did the bombings, right?
Yeah, he attacked Sudan or something like that.
No, he did the Tanzania and Kenya embassy bombings.
Yeah. And that's right. And he mentioned Bin Laden. That's how we all got to know who Bin Laden was. Yeah. But then he was also immortalized in movies. Remember, I don't know if you remember Hannibal, which was like the sequel to Silence of the Lambs. Yeah. So when Julianne Moore, so she was looking through the most wanted FBI list. You can see that Osama bin Laden was like right on number 1, and then Hannibal Lecter was like somewhere in 2 or 3 or 4 like that. So by that time we are already was also because he was also because I don't know if you know Nostradamus, right? Yeah. So the prophecy or whatever that was.
Oh, I thought my friend from down the street. Oh, sorry, yeah, that Nostradamus.
Yeah. So I remember even as a kid, they told us that there was going to be a man that's going to come from the Middle East, who's going to cause great trouble for America. So most of us by that time thought that Osama bin Laden was that man from Nostradamus. We kind of like that.
They just missed the part where they talk about America created this man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we missed all that shit. I mean, like, I couldn't believe it. When I heard about Osama bin Laden being a CIA man and how his family was in America, like all this stuff, like in the 2000s, far after 9/11, I was like, what the fuck? How did I miss all that shit?
Well, I mean, it was because back then, like, this is with the whole for people who are not following us, I just want to give a little backstory. So the Soviets were invited in by the socialist communist government of Afghanistan in 1979. This really pissed off this place because Afghanistan's really close to the Middle East and the Cold War was in full effect. And our boy fucking Carter with his Brzezinski fucking foreign policy, he was a Secretary of State or whatever the fuck. And, Mika's father, Mika from Mika and Joe, MSDNC. So this guy, they start supplying arms to these freaking jihadists on the Paki-Afghanistan border, all right? Now, these are fucking, like, the Islamists are insane. They were like, they're just as bad as today. I mean, but they didn't give a shit because they were like, well, you know what? Enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? They eventually started, you know how much they were giving them by the end of bro, they supplied them with over $5 billion in weapons, all right? $5 billion in weapons too. They had Stinger missiles that were taking out MiGs and fucking helicopters, right? That's why the Soviets left.
I still think it was a brilliant plan. They just didn't follow it up and close it up in a proper way.
Just like now, by leaving all the fucking things to the Taliban.
That's the thing. It was such a brilliant plan that they even brought the Soviets down, onto their knees. But after that, they got too cocky. They didn't actually close the deal in the way that they should have, and 9/11 wouldn't have happened if United States actually.
That's not wrong. You know why? Because 9/11 didn't happen because of that. So what happened was initially it was just these Afghan and Pakistani fighters, right? But it became like a celeb cause jihad where they wanted to call Arab fighters from other places. And you have this fucking guy, Osama, who can't get laid in Saudi Arabia, so he's got to fucking come with his fucking band of, brothers and just fucking take up a jihad cause. And what happened is, like you said, once they left, they didn't give a shit. So you have these motherfuckers running around in caves who are fucking pissed at everybody, and now they're pissed at America because guess what? In 1990, Iraq invades Kuwait, and guess what? I know a guy who worked in the oil fields in Kuwait, right? I mean, I know a guy who knows a guy who worked there, my friend's cousin. He told my friend that they were drilling sideways into Iraq to get the oil from Iraq. The Kuwaitis were, right? This is what pissed Saddam off. Now, Saddam warned the American ambassador. They said, we're going to fucking invade this place. And the American ambassador sort of tricked him by giving him like, not an assurance, but sort of like, well, if you do, like, we don't know what's going to happen. It's not good. They never told Saddam that if you fucking invade Kuwait, we're going to kick your ass. Well, of course, that's what made him even more emboldened, and then he invaded Kuwait. And then the U.S., to protect its golden boy Saudi Arabia, sends all its forces. Like, I think they sent 1,500,000 troops into Saudi Arabia. And this is what pissed Osama off, because this guy's an insane religious nut job. He couldn't stand the sight of a woman's foot touching the land that holds the holy shrines of Mecca and Medina, right? That's what it was. That sort of, these guys will, anything will trigger them. They're fucking nuts. So, and then it just became that. It was like, how dare America, and of course, bombing Iraq. And I don't know if you remember at the end of the Gulf War, when the Iraqis were retreating, they bombed that whole convoy. They killed 1,000 people in like an hour. There's videos of charred Iraqi remains in a tank, retreating army, not someone who's attacking. Didn't give a shit. They were just like, go to town, boys.
Yeah. And of course, yeah. So
and then we had the real Iraq War, where you know what happened there.
Yeah. So that's when I say that when you're shedding a tear for the victims of 9/11, think about the fact that there are people out there who probably every year shed a tear for someone they lost because of
the fucking reprisal.
Yeah, because of the ripple effects from this.
I wouldn't call it ripple effect. I would call it extreme slaughter and a completely. Military-industrial complex, grift. That's what Afghanistan was, a fucking kleptocracy, money fucking sucking, money funneling operation. That's all it was. It was just military-industrial complex, jizzing away, making money. And they were losing $10 billion at one point in a day, right? They had this pallet of $10 billion in a crate coming off a C-17 in Iraq, and the people just taking the money. I've seen videos of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. So, we think of these wars as losses, but for the military and industrial complex, these were wins, because this is exactly what they want. So, see, they want the kind of wars they don't want the kind of World War II, World War I kind of wars where it comes to your doorstep and it impacts you in a way that's very hard to control. What they want are these type of proxy wars, far away from your little picket fences and your backyard, so, but they can generate a lot of it's sort of a sustainable type of money funneling operation. So in terms of that, they got what they want. They want to carry out a war like this for 10-20 years, make their money, and then dismantle and leave, fuck off, and go somewhere else. I believe that so that's why. So when people say, oh, what, US lost Vietnam, US lost Afghanistan, I don't really look at it as, because they didn't really lose, right? I mean, they easily came and conquered, and they were there, and then
the only ones who lost were the people who died.
Yeah, they get fed up, they leave. So I mean, if you think these wars were lost, then you have to look at the historically. Did the Mongols lose wars because they are no longer in occupying those areas? No, right? When they were there, they were very powerful. They won those wars, and then they left eventually because it was just not a sustainable operation. So, but from a military industrial point of view, yeah, they won because they had a war for 20 years that didn't that had very little to do with a real war, but it was a huge money making gain. And now they're thinking of the next wars. And because when I looked at today's 9/11 memorial, or the ceremonies, I saw Condoleezza Rice, and she's now talking about Taiwan with China. So you had to think about how much bigger these new type of foreign policies are going, because that they're not scaling down, because Biden got a $25 billion boost for the military budget for the current
year. So they have a war that you're going to talk about. There's already a war against Americans. Come on, man. We don't need a foreign war. We have a war going on right here at home.
Yeah, domestic terrorism as well. And you're going to be targeting all these peasants, like
especially if they don't want to get vaxxed.
Because they don't want to get vaxxed, or they're going to be targeting a lot of the working class Americans. Just think about that word, working class. I mean, maybe they're not coastal elites or whatever like that. They don't believe in giving their kids puberty blockers at birth, but they're bigots in your mind, but these are the people that you're going to be milking a lot. military industrial complex and the surveillance state, and everyone is going to be milking the shit out of these peasants. I think the word is proletariats, right? I don't know, fucking. I'm not Karl Marx. I'm not fancy enough to pronounce this shit, right? But yeah, these these working class peasants, and they're proletariats. Yeah, they're going to be your next boogeyman. So I wanted to think about what kind of a fake platform you're standing when you call yourself a socialist or a left wing or whatever. You're literally standing on ice. Your ideology is based on prosecuting the very people that Karl Marx wrote in favor of. So that's where you stand. So I mean, it is a full 360, and you guys all been duped, and you're all sort of you've been trained to backstab your neighbor, your family, your loved ones. They've created this dystopian type of a very mistrust based society, and you're operating plainly on tribalism, and going to be their next goal. So they're going to be going after, maybe they're withdrawn from Afghanistan, but they're going to have new enemies. They're going to they're probably going to use Bolsonaro as a, because he's an extreme right-wing guy, that's justification to have a war in maybe Brazil. Maybe they will use Philippines. Maybe they would use China or Russia. Putin. That's your next boogeyman. So yeah, they're going to have endless opportunities to keep this thing going.
But what about the other thing that was a side effect, or not even a side effect? It helped perpetuate every kind of messaging that came out of 9/11. Our complete and corrupt, soulless corporate media that has been blasting propaganda since day one. And as you know, they were blasting recently propaganda about ivermectin on Rolling Stone.
Yeah, and yeah, the Rolling Stone, at least to their credit, to some extent, withdrew that statement. So Rolling Stone originally had a piece that was saying that there were hundreds and thousands of people lining up, taking up hospital beds for overdosing on ivermectin, which is the most retarded thing, because I don't know, it's very hard for you to actually overdose and die on this medication. It's not exactly it's not
facts. Who cares about that?
It's kind of an over-the-counter type of drug. It's a bullshit drug.
Isn't it horse dewormer?
Okay, yeah, all the more reason why it's not something you can't, it's nothing dangerous. It's something you can take if you want, but the chances of you overdosing or dying on this shit is very rare. The whole purpose of them going after this drug is because Joe Rogan obviously beat COVID within a short period of time, and he did the right thing. This is actually proven that when you get COVID, one of the best ways for you to actually counter COVID is to throw the kitchen sink. You take everything. Literally, you take your, Joe Rogan, I think he took all kinds of preventative medications, including like drips and all kinds of shit. And he gets, on the passing, he mentioned ivermectin. He could have mentioned heroin. I took heroin. And then nobody would have blinked and okay, whatever. You know what I mean? Cool. Good on you, man. Good on you, whatever. Thumbs up and all that shit. But because he mentioned this drug that has this very tribal type of, like instinct to fight back against, because, your lizard brain got instantly activated as soon as you heard that
triggered.
Name. Yeah, you got triggered. That's it. So you were played for a fool. So I'm not saying that ivermectin is a cure for, excuse me, COVID. Maybe it has, it works. Different drugs work for different people. Yeah, that's just how it is. And ivermectin might have had some sort of a, like a residual effect. And for nobody, not even Joe Rogan said that would told you that this is the absolute end all be all cure for it. All he did was he just said, I just took it, along with everything else. And you guys all, got your panties up in a bunch over that. So, yeah. And, so, this is why the media is so kind of, they're cherry picking and they're so disingenuous in how they want to frame the narrative. So they were trying to tell this narrative that there were a lot of people out there who are dying because they were taking this drug, but there is absolutely no scientific basis to that because this is not, this is not a drug that you can easily overdose on. So they had to retract that. But I think Rachel Maddow still hasn't done
Oh,
it.
she still has it up.
Yeah, she still hasn't. So she still has it up. But Rolling Stones have at least had the decency to kind of walk back on it and bring and say that we were lying about it. So
Maddow is now making 30 million plus a year. All right, you think she gives a shit about any of this? She's untouchable.
exactly, yeah, and it's and she's refusing to do it, and she's done it. I mean, this is not the first time. I mean, you know that a lot of the time she has a reputation for spreading misinformation. I mean, it's not like Joe Rogan and his podcast. I mean, Joe Rogan, he doesn't always get everything right, and sometimes he's wrong. And I don't think I'm not an Ivermectin type of patron. I don't think. I mean. I don't believe that it's a cure for COVID.
I don't think it's a cure. It's like a therapeutic kind of like cocktail that mixes with all the other stuff that he took. And don't forget, Mexico and India drastically reduced deaths with the use of ivermectin, right? When their cases started going through the roof. And the reason it's not sold here is because you never hear about the therapeutic regimes here. You only hear about vaccine. That's all you hear. They're literally saying, yesterday I heard Biden saying that if you don't get vaccinated, you're going to give me COVID. Get the fuck out of here. The vaccine doesn't stops the spread.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the vaccine actually, I mean, it might slow down the spread to a certain extent.
Right.
But vaccine is not, if you die from COVID, the onus is on you for not being vaccinated. You can't.
But you can't if you get COVID, taking the vaccine is not going to help you stop the COVID. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, and also, I mean, you can see how disingenuous they were because, a few months ago they were saying it's not the job of the federal government to mandate vaccines, and we are going to leave it for individual, we are going to leave for private sector, blah blah blah, and all. And today, now that they're not getting what they want, they're kind of actually moving the goalpost. They're saying our patience is wearing thin. So he gave this extremely fascistic kind of a warning. Okay, so we were hoping that we are going to respect the Constitution and the rights you have, but we are hoping that you do the right thing. So if you do, now suddenly when they are not doing what they want, they're like, our patience is wearing thin. Now this is not. So we are going to find other ways to do it. And what are the other ways of doing it? We are going to force the private sector. So this is fascism. I mean, I don't know if you guys know what the
collusion
definition
of government and state and corporations.
Collusion of So that's what Mussolini did. I mean, Mussolini, who was one of the leading socialists of Europe back in the day. Let's not forget. Yeah, he was, and he was a very serious one. I mean, you're talking about someone who was very hands-on in places like Switzerland and Italy. So, so the U.S. government is now going to use the private sector to sort of force their tyranny. Whether you believe this is for a good cause or you might say, vaccines are for a good cause.
Matter.
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because that's exactly what the people in Italy thought. That's exactly what the people in Germany thought. That they all thought that this is for a good cause. So this is not the first time that I mean, this is what the medieval fucking people thought. Like when the priests were sort of justifying you to be burnt in a stake. Do you think that these people I want to be evil? No, I'm in the devil's side. No, they thought they were doing the right things, and so are you motherfuckers. You know what I mean? So don't think that you are in any way special or unique on this occasion.
Don't forget the most important thing. These fucking water carriers for the vaccine just 9 months ago hated the vaccine. There's fucking clips all over the internet about them saying this is a Trump vaccine, we don't trust it. Cuomo saying I don't trust it.
Donald Trump's gonna be telling me to take it, I'm not taking it. Remember how fucking Kamala was saying
fuck all these people, man. That's just fucking bullshit. And guess what? People's memory, either they have no memory or propaganda is beyond belief, and it's just literally reptile brain city non-stop.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So
I told you I was watching the U.S. Open, and the sportscaster saying, well, it's so hot. Tee-hee, nobody wants to wear the mask. Tee-hee. You know what? If Trump was in fucking power, all you motherfuckers would be masked up, and there'd be like mask mandate, like with fines. If I mean, that's the problem. They've made this so political. These morons, right? You want to get people to get vaccinated. You shouldn't have made this political from day one, and you did.
Yeah, just said Trump vaccine from day one, and they wouldn't be taking. Yeah,
you reap what you sow now. Good. But that's why they're doing all this bullshit, because they're not willing to lose. Now they're going to go into the fascistic route, because who's going to stop them? Most of the shitlibs are fucking lining up with the chair, like, sign me up for chains immediately.
And the worst part is that somebody was saying that of course mandated vaccines will accomplish this and that, so they were giving me all the scientific facts, and I'm not even disputing that. Let's just say they were true, but you can make an argument just about for anything that, you know what I mean. You can say, oh, you know what, breeding is wrong because it against climate change, and there's evidence. There's Michael Moore fucking documentaries that show that we got to depopulate, right? So we can say, okay, you know what, forced castration is a human right, because it will stop climate change. It will stop climate change. Or eugenics. Let's just eugenics is a human right. You can say that the same way you can say for vaccine, because you can tie it in with climate change, or you can tie it in with so many other fucking variances out there. You can say that we should put our children on puberty blockers at birth because it will engender disparities. See, these are all very logical arguments. I mean, you might say, okay, I'm taking the extreme view. I think that there's a word for it, but I don't remember now. But I'm not, because even with vaccines last year, when Alan Dershowitz was saying that the vaccines should be mandated, you can't feel like saying, like, this guy's a nut job and all. Now you move your GoPros, it's like, this is the whole frog in the boiling fucking
Well, they have
pot,
that platinum fucking get out of jail card, right?
So the Rollo Tomasi. You have endless Rollo Tomasi on your, on your platinum card. So now it's okay because we are doing it for a good cause. So fascism is okay when we do it for something. Okay, so in that case, let's just enforce everything else. Let's make sure that everybody has voter ID, just like the vaccine.
Oh yeah, they got paid. The Republicans went with that in some states. They go like, you motherfuckers want us to do vaccines? Well, voter ID, here we come.
Yeah, and let's make sure that everybody is castrated. So climate change, like 7 fucking billion people. We only need 500 billion people on this planet. You know what I mean? You can have all those great arguments. I mean, every single argument makes sense when you tie it into some sort of this type of narrative, the same way you're doing for vaccines right now. And just have a think about it. And anyway, I think we before we end this, there was another one small article that I want to bring you like attention. California moves to be the first state to outlaw stealthing or removing condom. Now the first thing that came to my mind as soon as I saw the word stealthing or removing condom was, guess what?
Can't think of it, but tell me.
Okay, so the first thing that came to my mind was Julian Assange. Now,
They got
because he was born in this hot Swedish chick.
Yeah, she accused him of that, right?
Yeah, so in Sweden that's illegal apparently. So that's the whole reason why he this whole shit show happened. Anyway, so he got stuck and all this happened. So that was the little thing that triggered the whole thing. So I don't know, maybe I'm thinking too far ahead. Maybe I'm connecting too many dots, but I just get the feeling that for whatever the reason, that Julian Assange is probably the reason why California is introducing this law, because they want to eventually, when Assange is extradited to the United States, they can say that, this is illegal what he fucking did, and they can sort of try to, okay, maybe I'm wearing my tinfoil hat a little too much,
well, it assumes that moron Americans know who Assange is in the first place.
But but by the time that narrative is on the headlines, liberals need to sell some kind of a loophole, a foot in the doorway to why he's a bad guy, and this California law seems to be a perfect sort type of springboard to paint that narrative. But at the same time, there is another thing that I can't get my fucking head around is that California also passed a law like a couple of years ago that decriminalized any person who knowingly spread HIV. So,
This is a complete shitlip pandering to the LGBTQ. You know that.
Yeah. So the shit lips are pandering to the LGBT. So if you got HIV and if you knowingly gave this type of life-threatening, I mean, HIV is not exactly a death sentence today like it was in the 80s, but it is still a very fucking.
Yeah, we don't want to get it.
It's very stigmatized. I mean, if you got HIV,
You might die.
You might die. You'll have to tell your family that you got HIV. You know what I mean? It's not something you can be proud of. Or it's not something that it's very hard to live with. You know what I mean? Like it's got all these repercussions.
So this is how they get the both angles. The stealth thing gets him in with the women, and the fucking HIV thing gets him in with LGBTQ. But although they're diametrically opposite.
Fuck, do you reconcile one with the other? So
they don't have to. They're shit libs. We do fucking redundant, completely 90-degree opposite things all the time. 180 degrees.
It blows my mind just seeing that shit. I mean, this is where we are at. We are at this clown show.
Roller, bro. Get out of jail every fucking minute.
Oh my god.
I mean, like you said, I mean, you yourself said this to me a few weeks ago, that even a lot of times these debates, like these guys are bad faith debaters and actors. They should not be engaged in. I'm not saying it in sort of like getting rid of them like the others, like how they want to get rid of the anti-vaxxers. These guys are literally like in bad faith. They do this shit because they know they'll always, like you said, like fucking turn like a pretzel inside out, fucking word salads and entire media apparatus fucking covering for their asses. Like, look, there's literally 10 minutes of video about Cuomo going, I'll never trust this vaccine. Kamala goes, if Trump tells me I'll never take it. They're all saying they hate the vaccine. All of them said it. And guess what? Trump is the one who did the fucking what was it called? Warp speed medicine bullshit, right? He got the vaccine out in like fucking 3 minutes, right? Do you see anybody giving him credit for that? Nope. They hate Trump. Trump is bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know what? Even Trump is a fucking joke, but guess what? He pales in comparison to all these career criminals. Like he's like a new criminal on the block. He's like a little mafia don and taking like 2 blocks of a fucking entire country. Whereas these guys are the major criminals. They're like the foot soldiers of the oligarchs. Trump is a wannabe oligarch who again had to go and suck off Sheldon Adelson to fucking get his money.
Anyway, before we close up with this, another one little story that I probably wanted. I know Joe Rogan's been getting a lot of heat for having his North Korean chick.
The one who looks like an inflatable doll.
Look, she has nice big tits, man. She's kind of hot, actually, to be honest. But
she looks like she was created in a computer lab.
I know, man, and I think she was a massive exaggerator because she has primarily a libertarian audience and everything. Right? So she exaggerates a lot. But one thing that she did mention that I saw all these people who call themselves comrades on Twitter, I think that she's lying when they say that people have to push trains. Now, this is something that I can kind of relate to as a Sri Lankan who has lived through some political turmoil in Sri Lanka. I have seen people push trains. Like, I mean, of course, you can't push like a whole fucking,
it's like one bogie.
You can push like a couple of parts of the train, and people do that. I mean, people still do it in like a place like in India, in Madhya Pradesh.
They still do that.
People still fucking push trains, and even when places where you repair trains and all, like the train workshops, I've seen like 20, 30 people can easily push a train in certain parts of so I just wanted to say that that argument, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure she exaggerates a fuckload of things, and I don't blame her. I mean, if you lost and suffered under a certain regime like this bitch has, so she's going to, of course, I remember paint in the worst possible light. But can you push a train? Yeah, you can push a train. Yeah, look, if you just, I think the problem is that when you live in a Western country, we are insulated from all the suffering, and you kind of glorify communism and call each other comrades. You kind of you don't know what people are capable of when they're motivated. Where we live in Sri Lanka, we have people who constantly pour water to the radiator every 20 minutes in a truck, just to keep it running on the road. They can push a train. So I just thought I'll mention that.
Well, that's the thing, because people, I mean, they're so far removed from, all this internet connectivity and stuff like that, still cannot give people here the reality on the ground of what's happening in many countries. And to them, these are things that are like from medieval times almost, because they never knew about these things. They can't imagine people like having no running water. Like I visited India like 15 years ago, and I lived in like someone's house that was worth a few $1 million, and they had no running water, right? And I was like, by the time I got back, I was living in London at the time, and by the time I got to London, I just ran straight to the bathroom, to the shower, because I was like, I've forgotten what it feels like to have running water, because most people do it out of buckets or whatever, that just seems, sometimes it's a cultural thing, right? And people don't get that. And but they'll use, just like how they have every tool in their Rollo Tomasi box to get out of every argument, they'll use any fake argument to go after people like Joe Rogan or anybody else, because they can't stand this guy. He's not only successful, he's minting the kind of money they want. This is the same reason they didn't like Trump. Trump did their grift better than them. They were pissed that Trump was better than them at everything. This is the same, we're talking about the same kinds of people. Remember what Jimmy Dore said? They're pissed because their inner Trumps are pissed that they're not Trump. They're not the Trump that Trump is. Trump is like the popular, powerful guy, and they're just like little shits working the Washington Post, like that Dave Weigel fucking guy.
Anyway, so I think I'm all done for this week. I think I said my piece. I've said everything. I don't think I got anything worth saying. I've got into a new podcast called Rebel Wisdom, which is a great podcast. I would recommend anyone. I think they are a beyond narrative type of podcast. So see, I
it's
love
time to get fucking royalties.
Yeah, they take on everything. So for example, even you know how much I love Joe Rogan, and some of his visitors like Bret Weinstein and his wife. They are regular visitors in Joe Rogan, but these guys sort of take the middle part. They even debunk those arguments. So sometimes I've listened to them, and they make me uncomfortable because they kind of poke on my sacred cows. But that's what we are about, right? We know, but nothing is sacred on beyond narratives. We try to put everything on the chopping block. We try to not be married to our ideas, and we would even chop ourselves. Like if we think we were wrong in a previous episode, we'll bring it up. That's okay. So because we are all
you did that today. You talked about how you wanted to come and work for the U.S. military and working for George Bush. So
exactly. Yeah, there you go. So I put myself on the chopping block.
And to finish off that thought, in terms of like this episode, I wanted to also let people know that as bad as all our responses were on 9/11, like you said, it still was I guess the only thing I would want is the same kind of recognition for people who've been bombed, maimed, and killed in the response to all our aggression for 9/11. But on 9/11, I remember one thing which did, get me into the mainstream, like in terms of like, it was a sad day, is a few weeks, maybe a week or two after 9/11, they had a ceremony at Yankee Stadium, right? And of course it was America's mayor and all these other pricks. But they had Bette Midler sing, and she sang, I think she sang Wind Beneath My Wings.
Oh, yeah, beautiful song.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone in the room did not cry that day. Like me, my mom, everyone watching the TV. And it's also, we were right here. When you're right here in front of it happening and fucking buildings falling in front of your face, no matter what your politics are or how you think about anybody, it's at that time you're stuck in it, and everyone was caught up in it. And it was, I still remember, the reason is, for me, I felt the brunt of the after effects more than the actual physical aspect of the building falling. But like my brother was in the building, and he went through something that I would not wish on anyone. And of course, there are a lot of people who didn't make it out. I had two friends. I had a friend who knew someone who worked in the building, and he actually joined. He started working in World Trade Center 1 day before 9/11. Like, he started a new job that week. And so it's all about, there's so many stories about people just missing their trains. There was the top of the World Trade Center had a restaurant. I don't know if you remember it, called the Windows on the World, right? The head chef there.
I remember you say there's an Indian chef who's been unemployed since whatever.
And the head chef over there, he decided last minute to go check his prescriptions at the glasses place on the mezzanine level. And instead of going up, he took a left and he went to the stores. And that was it. I mean, it's a matter of like, I once took a wrong turn and I got hit by a car. So, it's just a matter of like, a lot of things just happens because of time. Djokovic hits a fucking line woman's with the ball. Anything is possible. So,
well, was this head chef an Indian guy?
No, he was a white guy, but I know that there was other chefs and stuff who worked in, and Windows in the World was on the 98th floor, 103rd floor, or something. They're right on top, and anyone above the impacts were always cut off. I think there were like 16 people got out. That was it, and but everybody else was stuck. And you saw those people like leaning out of the windows and jumping to their deaths. This is not something that is a good day for anybody, and
well, one of those guys, I think he was his wife. I think he can see her like when he looks at those I don't know if some of you people know, but I know you see people falling and shit like that. But there are actually pictures you can see if you look at close up. There are about 30 or 40 people actually sitting outside the building because it's so hot.
It's too hot. It was too hot. Yeah. Imagine having to choose between jumping to your death and this is something that everyone's talked about. One of the interesting stories from 9/11, which I always followed, which I don't know if viewers might know about it, you can Google, but there was this guy called Stanley Premnath, right? He was a Trinidadian sort of like Guyanese Indian guy who worked at Fuji Bank or something like that. And he was told to go back to his building after the first thing hit. So he went back to Tower 2 and he was just working. And he describes the plane hitting the building, coming right at him. It hit his floor. Like he could see the cockpit while it was about to impact it. It was that close. And he was saved by someone called Brian Clark, I think. And they found him in a hole. I mean, he was like totally busted up and he made it down. But wow, imagine having to actually sit and, as a kid, this is before I found out about capitalism. As a kid, I always wanted like a corner office in the World Trade Center. I don't know if you remember, the very first World Trade Center attack was on my birthday, February 26th, right? 1993. And the guy who did that, Ramzi Youssef, who was another fucking Al-Qaeda offshoot, when he was caught by the FBI, check out the show called The Looming Tower. It's on Hulu. It's a great show. It's got Mr. Jeff Daniels. We love that guy. And it's got the guy who plays. Did you watch the movie The Mauritanian?
No.
You gotta watch it. It's on a bunch of streaming services. That guy plays Ali Soufan, who's the FBI agent who caught Ramzi Youssef. And Ramzi Youssef was taken in a helicopter. They used the law enforcement methods back then instead of this war on terror nonsense or war of terror. And that guy was on the helicopter and they were passing by Lower Manhattan. And he told these guys, he goes, "You see those buildings? One day we're gonna bring them down." And there could be you could make a case for like information should be shared more, but they did it at the cost of erosion of all our civil liberties. Obama made it possible for Americans to be killed by the U.S. government and held without trial. Don't forget Anwar al-Awlaki, who lived in Yemen. They got rid of him with the drone bomb and his 2 kids. So apparently we can kill Americans without trial as long as they are bad. That's all it takes.
So do you think, we are still seeing people die from 911 for, because of all the toxins they inhaled 20 years later?
I'm sure.
Do you think COVID is going to be like that, another 50 years or 30 years time, we're going to see people dying from complications that they got because of COVID?
Well, I think COVID is being used. COVID has enriched a lot of people, right?
In the same way, bioweapon, just like, if 911 was a bioweapon that we are not aware of, maybe COVID is too. Who knows? Yeah.
And again, what do you call it? I think just this week it came out that there was funding for gain of function, right, by the U.S. government. So Fauci's disappeared. Remember when he was actually in Congress fighting Rand Paul, and all the shit libs were like, "Yeah, man, Fauci took out Rand Paul. Rand Paul's so stupid," because they love dunking on right wingers, and the right wingers don't help their cause by being dunked on half the time. But in this case, he was wrong. And they did fund gain of function, but of course it's China, so who knows what happens there. Even if they did it, they're going to hide it, and that'll cause more. They'll either have a war or they'll freaking be in it together. Who knows? But yeah, I got
a friend who's suffering from COVID right now, like recovering, and what he's telling me is that this disease, it keeps coming back. So you get you get a break after a while. It's like a bad flu, and you get a break. Then it attacks a different part of the body. Then it attacks a different part of the. Then it can go from your
Wow.
kidneys to your lungs to your fucking liver to your back to your headache and shit like that. So it almost does not feel like a naturally occurring disease. It almost feels like a bioweapon to me when the way he described the COVID to me.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, though, I think I do want to end on a note with COVID, because there is a very special man that I want to mention. He's a distant relative of mine. We lost him to COVID this week, and he's a Sri Lankan icon. His name is Sunil Perera, and he's a member of a group called Gypsies. If you're Sri Lankan, I mean, you would know who they are. They're sort of like let's just say if you had a party or a wedding or something in Sri Lanka, the chances are that they played his music. Either he performed live or you played like a record of him or whatever. It's literally 99% sort of probability. And that's just what a well-known household name he is. And he had COVID, so he was in the hospital. He was treated for it. He got better. He came back. He was fine, and then suddenly he had like a complication, like a pneumonia, some shit. Look, I don't know. He was 68 years old, and he probably, I mean, he lived a very fast life at some point in his life. So we don't know what are the all the factors that contributed to his death. So he died. Okay, so but he was one of the inspirations in my life, because as a kid, if you see a certain element of my, I try to incorporate satire with everything I do in my life. And he was one of the cornerstones of the who ingrained that thought in me, that he was a singer. So he was a singer, but he was what's called a baila in Sri Lanka. We have this genre called baila, which is something we picked up from the Caribbean and the Africa and West Indies. And it is sort of a very freestyling type of like lucky go, like you just sing what comes to your mind. And you have freestyling baila. You also have sort of a you have sort of well scripted baila. But this guy was groundbreaking, because see, even in the 80s, like when rap music was a thing in America, I never knew what rap music was, but he kind of introduced that style of rhythmically, like telling just words to a rhythmic beat. That style of music I first heard through him. So in many ways, he probably introduced rap music as we know it to Sri Lanka. So he was a he's a very well known comedian, and he's a very talented singer who sang whose songs we'd often listen to and laugh because they were just so funny. But it's funny because it's true, you know what I mean? And he sang a lot about how frustrating it is to get things done in a corrupt nation like Sri Lanka. So yeah, so this is an end of an era. So he's gone, and it kind of, I was a bit down about it throughout the week, because my wife doesn't know any Sri Lankan songs because she's Australian, but she knows one Sri Lankan song because that's the only Sri Lankan song I ever sing, and that is a song from him. So that's just how important this guy is to me. So I want to give a tribute to I want to say, Sunil Perera, you are a great Sri Lankan icon, and Gypsies are a great Sri Lankan band, and it's an end of an era, and rest in peace, man. Yeah.
All right, man. So that's the end of this show, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We will catch you on the next one. And goodbye for now.
Everybody come for dinner. Kiala kau tu like them. Johnson's wife for minna badagena mileka ni saiba. You, I'll kill you. Yagen on Johnson penna. Kisi ahilak balilak na penu ko man saiba ke hombata menna. Ane tani bidi gahagena adi mudi dagena yanawa gudi kheliyak. Balang inne benawදින්නේ නැහැ. පොලිසියට අපි දුන්න කෝල් එක. අම්මා බෝරි මැද බෑන්ඩ් එක ගහනවා තාමත්. රොම්පිට පම් පම් පම්. අනේ අංකල් ජොන්සන්ගේ රිදී යුබිලියේ පාටිය සුනේසෝ. Uncle Johnson uncle. ගෝරි මැද්දේ දැන් කැරොල් පාටිය. Uncle Johnson uncle. මේක ජොන්සන්ගේ ජුබිලි ගෝරිය. Uncle Johnson uncle. Johnson ge Jubilee Gloria. Uncle Johnson, Johnson uncle. Keva keva saima Jubilee party. Uncle Johnson, Johnson uncle. Ane abakuna rigi Jubilee. Uncle Johnson, Johnson, Johnson uncle. Ram kina pam pam panga party. Uncle Johnson, Johnson uncle. Sune sune me Jubilee party. Uncle Johnson, Johnson uncle. Ane Johnson ke uncle ke Johnson ke Jubilee.